Strangers in the night, exchanging glances, wandering in the night. What were the chances my chair would squeak on stream? The chances were pretty good. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the den. I believe we're live. Looks like it. Hope everybody's doing well today, this Sunday. Middle of May already. Not sure where this month has gone. It seems like it is moving pretty quick, which is great, I guess. You know, if you don't have a lot of stuff to do and not much time to get it done in. Anyhow, hope everybody's doing good. What do we got going on today? We're going to look at a couple books, actually three of them. I called out Alphacore and Besprinkled with Scarlet. God, I didn't write Bespeckled. I hope I didn't. I'm going to have to look at that. Anyways, we're going to look at those. Recently delivered. Also, I read, it's not the latest, but it's the latest at the comic shop I go to. Latest issue of Vampirus Carmilla. We'll take a look at those. We'll look at some other books that I picked up this week, mostly from the local comic shop. A couple I had to order because, yeah, I know. The first 5 months are just goodbye. Anyways, a couple I had to order because I was reading them. And the local comic shop seems like they just stopped ordering maybe. So I ordered a couple off of mycomicshop.com. We'll check those out. And we'll chat about a few things here and there. So there you go. Hopefully kind of a chill Sunday stream. Oh, by the way, I did open some of the figures that I was showing off in boxes last week. There's Vigilante with the mask up. I think he looks better with it. I haven't, put his shooting irons in his holster and all that good stuff yet, but not too bad. I did notice, though, that the boots, you kind of have the right shape, but the little ball joint is not the same color as the boots. So it almost looks like he's wearing little clogs or some kind of tap shoe. Not exactly what they're going for. With Vigilante, getting these dudes to stand up, I tell you what. They're better people than I am. Oh, I got him to stand up. Now I'm afraid to move. And one of his boots looks really stupid. So anyways. But yeah, I opened a few. I'll show them off as I go. All of them pretty decent, actually. Not too bad. So what's some of the, wow, there's a high wind warning, apparently. I just noticed that on the computer screen. Hey, Man of War 665. What's cooking, man? When you are old and have bills at the start or end of each month, the clock never stops. Yeah. As a kid, we had summer breaks, holidays, birthdays, and huge swathes of boring in between. I remember those days where the day after Christmas, when you're little, it's like, it's a whole other year before Christmas. It'll never come. A whole year before Christmas was like an impossible gulf of time. The sun will probably go supernova before we even get there. It is impossible, but nowadays you're like going, holy, wait a minute. Christmas is in like 2 weeks. Oh God, I got to shop. What's going on? Yeah, it's interesting how that happens. But I think a lot of it is because it's just downtime. You're just busier as an adult. Some adults, I know one in particular, is going to get summer break off because she teaches. The lucky duck. So a little bit of news bits that I picked up this week that I thought were cool. Interesting anyways. Ripaverse had announced that deal with Hachette. I assume it's pronounced Hachette or Hachette. I don't know. Book group. Give them broader retail and library reach, apparently, which is kind of cool for a small company kind of getting started. But it does show that you can accomplish things. It takes some investments, money, but also of time, no doubt about that. But that's cool. And hopefully some indie creators, through things like Ripasend, can also take advantage of this, and it can kind of help them, build an audience and get more books out there, and kind of make their dreams come true as well. So that was kind of cool. Nice to see that. They got a ton of releases this year at Rippaverse, and I'm mostly sticking with the stuff that I've gotten previously. I think Mike Barron has, he's doing a new Western. Now it's through them. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be sort of in continuity with the Rippaverse stuff, or if it's just something he's doing like with Ripascend. But a new Western, I don't want to say set in New Mexico. I might be wrong. Which looks kind of cool. Hey, Fabrizio, what's cooking, man? Good to see you, man. That's awesome. So we're, but it's nice to see somebody kind of building and growing. And again, hopefully it'll be useful for everybody else out there in the sphere. Because I've thought for a while that one of the big challenges for a lot of indie comic creators, they got the art, they got the writing, they're creative. That's what they like to do. But then you got to do the fulfillment, and you got to, keep track of the Kickstarter, and there's all this other behind the scenes kind of work that obviously, Jack Kirby, when he was working for Marvel or DC or whoever, he's just producing pages. That's not his problem. Somebody else markets it. Somebody else prints it. Somebody else delivers all of that stuff. He could focus purely on the creativity side, and obviously also focus on the fact that they're, probably trying to screw him out of money, but kind of went with the territory. In fact, that's kind of the problem. A lot of people want to go indie to get away from the corporate side, but the corporate side does actually provide some useful services for people here and there. So I think something like a Ripascend could be useful for a bunch of folks so they could focus more on what they're creating and maybe be able to push some of the logistics work onto somebody else, still retaining full ownership of what they're doing. I don't think there's any question of that, but we'll see. It might be useful for some people. And if he can manage to broaden his reach, that could be useful as well. And I did notice that a couple of his books have been delayed so they could take advantage of this new deal, which I think goes into effect in July. And on at least one of the new pre-orders that's up, they got the price down to the sort of mass market cover, because they do 4 covers. One of them's usually foil and getting kind of expensive. The other 2, more expensive because they're more limited. And then like the final cover is the one that's going to stay in print after the whole pre-order phase. And those were in the neighborhood of like $19, $20, which usually decent page count. I think now they're down to about $14. So they're definitely looking at ways to get these things down in price, because obviously that's going to help move more of them. That's kind of how this stuff works. Also saw a little blurb about Henry Cavill's Voltron project, heading straight to Amazon Prime. And I don't know a ton about what he's doing with it. Voltron was it was really cool when it first showed up when I was a kid. It's kind of new. Didn't see a ton of the Japanese animation yet at that point. But in reality, and of course I was looking at the American dubbed version, which might not be as good. Pretty much the same episode every episode, bad guys create this giant robot beast. He goes in and attacks. The lions attack him individually, get their butts kicked. They have to rally, form Voltron, slice them in half, go home. We're good. Those are cartoons that were really fun when you were a kid, because you'd never seen animation like that. The whole concept of robot lions that turn into a giant robot were like, what the hell, man? But I got to admit, as an adult, you go back to a lot of those and you're kind of you watch an episode or two and then you're like, all right, I think I've probably seen enough at this point. I think I kind of figured it out. So I don't know what he's going to do. I don't know if it's TV, streaming, or if it was meant to be a movie. From the sounds of it, if it's heading straight to Amazon Prime, maybe it was something they were thinking about releasing theatrically, and now they're not. I don't know. But I know Cavill's a fan of this stuff. It's nice to have somebody who actually cares about this involved. I just don't know how much control he ultimately has. He's doing that Highlander remake right now. And I did see a little like behind the scenes stuff of some fan giving him like a big Warhammer box set, which is cool. But at the same time, you're like going, dude, this guy's rich. He could buy his own Warhammer stuff. Like it's really nice to do, but geez, like I hope it didn't cost you too much money. But so he's working on that and he's doing the geeky stuff, but I don't know. I think we need to get further away from some of these remakes. Adaptations are fine. The remakes, I don't know. I'm actually going to talk about that in a minute from an interesting quote I saw from an interview with an actress. But I did want to bring up the Mortal Kombat movie. And it's still actually got decent ratings from fans and critics. It's not like people are hating it exactly. I've seen a couple people say, oh, there's a little girl boss stuff in it. Maybe there is. I don't know. But mostly I saw people saying it was pretty good, but the fights could have been a little bit better. I think they wanted to maybe see more of Karl Urban as more than just kind of little comedy relief, maybe. But money-wise, I don't know, man. It doesn't look like it's probably not going to break even on this one. So it says something, man. This is one that doesn't seem like it's getting any fire, from the culture warriors. It seems pretty straight, pretty action oriented. That's what people seem to have liked about it. Still isn't really clearing the bar. And it didn't get there wasn't, to the best of my knowledge, I don't think there were any comments by actors or actresses that offended people, before it had came out. But it shows that, even now, if they're trying to do stuff that should kind of please the crowd, maybe they're having trouble pleasing that crowd. Maybe they're just, it kind of bolsters the argument that a lot of folks have just kind of walked away. They're just not paying attention to movie theaters at all, which is a bad sign. You could always maybe get people back in with the right stuff, but and if you look at the May and June releases, there's and a genuinely embarrassing film based on a series of sci-fi movies I loved when I was a kid that's coming out. I don't foresee anything good coming from that. June has the Masters of the Universe film, which, again, the first trailer I saw, I was like, could be okay. It seems like a slow drip now, kind of like the James Gunn Superman of each little additional tidbit I hear has me awaiting this film with less ardor. It's just sort of like, some actress, and at least one actress, I think the Tila actress, opened her mouth, and you go, maybe she's just full of crap. Maybe it has nothing to do with the actual movie, what she said, but it's just that little, oh God, this is going to suck, right? Is this going to be another one of these? So I don't know. I thought at one point about going to it and, in the theater. Again, man, I don't mind sitting there in the dark, watching a movie on a big screen, a little popcorn, a little soda pop. It's good stuff. But I ain't going to go if it's going to be a waste of my time and money. I'm just not. And now I'm at the point where maybe I'll wait and see what a lot of people are saying about it. And if it turns out that people are really actually kind of digging it, I might go. But I'd gone from I might go for opening. I might, opening week. I might check it out. I can review it on a channel. Yeah, I'll do that. To maybe I'll wait a week. Maybe I'll wait a couple weeks. We'll see. So, that's again, I don't think they understand the fire they're playing with. A big chunk of your audience for these films is done. They're just done. They don't trust you. They don't like you. They're just looking for an excuse to not go to this thing. Period. You've used up any goodwill that your company's ever had that your artists ever had with the crowd. You've used it up. You are in debt right now to the audience. You can't play around. I mean, I think it's at the point now, if you're making an action movie, you need to interview your actors and figure it out. You need to look at their social media. And if you got somebody who likes to open their mouth about things that are going to piss off the audience, don't cast them. You are much better off without them. I don't care what their name is. I don't care what their standing is. Like, action movies, horror movies used to be sort of I don't know, for lack of a better word, a sort of a fellowship, it seems like, among the creative community. They were not respected by wider Hollywood. They were not movies you were going to get Academy Award nominations for. I know people say, well, Raiders of the Lost Ark should have won it. Raiders of the Lost Ark was not getting nominated for Academy Award. I don't care how good it was. It was an action type film. They don't get nominated, period. They don't get nominated, not at that era of Hollywood. It needs to have, friggin' Glenn Close in it or Meryl Streep looking sad for half the film. It needs to have Dustin Hoffman or De Niro overacting like crazy. That's what's going to get a nomination, not these other movies, no matter how popular they are, no matter the big budget. They got no respect. Now, and I know people now go, well, but Harrison Ford was a guy who was in Star Wars, and then he was Indiana Jones. He did well in Hollywood, ultimately. I don't know that he was highly respected as an actor in Hollywood. I don't know that he should have been either, although he did some good stuff. But I mean, Regarding Henry was not the greatest film I'd ever seen in my life, and Mosquito Coast was a little messy. I guess what was the one with the Amish? That was pretty good. At any rate. So there was kind of a brotherhood, sisterhood of people who made action and horror type movies. Actors and actresses who you would see pop up in them all the time. The exterior, drama types of Hollywood didn't get into these things. It was pretty rare. And if they did show up, it was probably because, they were getting older and they were just looking for anything that would, hire them. They needed the money. It was that kind of thing. Like, you get Joseph Cotton in some weird horror movies later on in his life because Joseph Cotton needed work, and that's how it went. But, Meryl Streep was probably not going to show up in a slasher movie at some point. It just wasn't going to happen. It just didn't work that way. And I think they need to get back there, frankly. A nice little traveling troupe of actors and actresses who make these kind of crowd pleaser movies without the artsy fart crowd getting involved, so they could kind of just focus on what makes people happy and what they enjoy, and not be focused on, well, we need to defy their expectations and we need to teach them all a lesson and all that other stuff. Just the people who have, Witness, thank you. Just the people who have a certain amount of contempt for these things, right? Maybe you should have contempt for superhero movies. I don't know. Maybe you should, but I know that I've enjoyed watching a bunch of them in my life. And that's kind of what I want sometimes. I don't mind a movie, obviously, that has a deeper emotional punch, and that kind of thing. I watch them. But sometimes what I want to watch is a superhero kicking the shit out of somebody, and I don't need somebody's contempt dripping all over it in the process. Really don't need that for action, for horror, for any of those things. Horror seems like it's stayed more pure. I think there's still that niche, that clique of horror people who do horror movies without outside interference. And there's a lot of them now coming out. Again, I'll give it to Chuck Dixon. He'd said, look, when Hollywood starts to fall apart, when the big budget stuff starts losing money, you start getting a lot of horror movies because they're cheap. You can make them quickly, and they tend to do well and find an audience. And it's just a good way to start building up the cash reserves and building up the goodwill. And we are seeing a lot of those right now. And they still seem to be pretty pure and not too sullied by mainstream Hollywood. But they need to get back there with the action films too, if they can attract people back to the theaters. So what else do we got? Supergirl. Toy Story 5. I gave up at Toy Story 3. I enjoyed the first two of them. The third one I didn't like that much. But I'll be honest, I've never been a giant fan of Pixar. Pixar movies always feel like there's a giant blinking sign over the screen, saying, be sad, be happy now, be happy. They like try too hard, I think, to drag stuff out of people. They always just, there was never any subtle emotion in one of those things. But some of their earlier stuff, I think, works better in that regard. But I didn't really like the third one. My daughter loved it because Ken and Barbie, mostly Ken in that thing. What was it? Jesus. Michael Keaton doing that voice. And she loved that. And some of that was funny, but it always felt like they were way too overblown. And, but they're on 5. Dude, I didn't even know they put out a 4. And they're on 5 now. It's weird, man. It's crazy. So I think the only thing I'm really waiting for at all, based on the trailer, is that Street Fighter movie. And like I said, I'm not a Street Fighter guy from way back, but the movie looks kind of fun. And hopefully it is fun. Look, the Mortal Kombat one looked kind of fun too. Apparently it's pretty brutal, pretty gory, which is, I think, great for the crowd that loves Mortal Kombat. Not as big for me. I might catch it at some point, like in streaming. But Street Fighter, I'm like, I want a movie. I want a movie to go see. I want a movie today to go see, and Street Fighter might be it. But that's October. That's a ways to go. So we'll see. So that's kind of what's going on in that world. I wanted to bring this up. I saw it on Twitter. Was it a guy named Rodney Marshall? It's a good account. And he talks a lot about 60s British TV. His dad was a writer. And he does some good stuff. So this was an excerpt of an interview with Annette Andre. And if you watch old British TV from this era, you probably have seen her. And she was a regular on Randall and Hopkirk Deceased. It's a fun show. I reviewed it on the channel a while back. But she, would show up like on The Saint and show up in other places too. And I don't know exactly when this interview was done, but it had to be recent. But what she said, and it was the way she put it into words, I kind of thought was interesting. Here's the quote. With all self-interest intended, I was offended by the remake of Randall and Hopkirk. I feel that way about most retreads of successful TV series. I found Return of the Saint a predictably tame attempt at hitchhiking on the original's uniqueness. Hitchhiking on the original's uniqueness. That's kind of what struck me at first. She continued, there's a certain crassness in stepping into the footprints of the original. A wide boy's muscling in on the fame and fortune rightfully earned by others in the past. And when I read that, I was like, yeah, I think that's sort of been something buzzing in the background in my brain, but I hadn't quite got it to the point where I could put it into words. It's not like, oh, they ruined it, because in a way it's like they ruined Star Wars. It's like, but they didn't. Well, I mean, George Lucas ruined Star Wars when he revamped all of them. But you could still find the original cuts out there if you look hard enough. They didn't ruin Star Wars. Star Wars are 3 movies from the 70s and 80s that are still those 3 movies. Still totally enjoyable. What they do with these characters and stuff later on, I don't really care that much. But it still annoys me, and I think the reason it annoys me is this sort of kind of ripping off the work that other people did and claiming it as your own. You should watch this because it's a Star Wars movie, But it ain't a Star Wars movie. The new thing coming out in May, I won't say its name. It pisses me off just that it exists. It's not a Star Wars movie. It's not a Star Wars movie. Dude, the kid who filmed himself pretending to be Darth Maul is more of a Star Wars movie than that thing is. Because the kid at least had the passion and the love of the thing. It wasn't just crass commercialism trying to cash in on something, But I like the way she said that. There's a certain crassness in stepping into the footprints of the original, muscling in on the fame and fortune rightfully earned by others in the past. They actually had to do the work. You know, they had to create this thing. Now, obviously, in the terms of the Saint, it's based on a character from books, you know. So yeah, they're kind of playing off of that. And there had been Saint movies in the 40s, a few done with George Sanders in the role, which are pretty good. The couple I've seen I liked. But it's an adaptation more than it is. It's not like a remake of those movies. It's an adaptation of the books. But the Saint TV series, obviously, you know, that's a lot of shows. It's a lot of episodes. I want to say 5 seasons. I think it's 5 or 6 seasons. You know, so it had to do a lot of its own more original writing along the way. They couldn't just adapt everything and have enough episodes to get that many seasons worth. So it's a lot of work that went into it. And then somebody else comes along and says, hey, you know, look at us. We're the Saint too. And it's like, well, maybe not quite. Maybe not quite. At any rate. And I'm not trying to slag on the Return of the Saint. I have seen one episode. It was decent. It was fine, but it wasn't the original. And just the idea, the originals did the work. They kind of blazed the trail. And then these copycats come along. I see where she's coming from. And it is a little bit crass. And I don't think it's sustainable. I think that's what we're seeing right now, that it's not sustainable. I think, well, first of all, I mean, what's one of the new ones they're doing recently? Oh, it's going to come to me in a minute. But, well, actually, in a minute, I'm going to talk about one too. But it's just where you're getting to a point of like, dude, the younger audience doesn't even know what this is at this point. If you tell them we're going to do a new version of Cannonball Run, well, you better focus it for old people, because we're the ones who know what Cannonball Run is. My daughter knows because she doesn't have a choice. She was forced to watch it. Actually, she enjoyed it. But younger folks, they don't know. They don't know. I'd say 35 and younger, no friggin' idea what that is. You might as well use something brand new. You're trading on IPs that a big chunk of the population has never heard of. You might as well just make something new at that point and not be bothered. Just don't be bothered. And by the way, then you don't have to license it. You don't have to pay $1 billion for it. You could just make it up on your own and own it outright. It's great. It's wonderful. It's how the process worked for a lot of years. I mean, there are always some adaptations and licensing, but a lot of original stuff went out and it works out pretty nicely, and you might as well do it. And then they try to remake stuff that the millennials and Zoomers do like, and they blow it just as bad as they do with the stuff us old farts like. They piss them off. I have to hear it from my daughter all the time. So I don't know. I just be original, for God's sakes. Just be original. Speaking of originality, the Rockford Files remake with, is it David Boreanaz? Is that how you say his name? It is apparently happening. It's premiering in January on NBC and I think on Peacock. And I'll tell you honestly, like when I saw that he was supposed to play the role, the first thought is, oh God, dude, you can't remake the Rockford Files. I'm sorry. You just can't. You can't duplicate Garner, even close. You can't friggin' duplicate Margolin, as Angel. You just can't do it. It's fine though if it's looked at for a lot of younger people as something new. That could be fine for them. For all of us older folks, it's going to be like we're comparing it to the original. But when they said he was the guy they cast, I remember thinking, man, he's one of the few people who might sort of have that vibe. I mean, he's no James Garner, but he's, I don't know. I think he projects a little bit more masculinity than a lot of the folks in that sphere do at this point. And I think if they could actually do this thing right, it could maybe find a little bit of an audience. I think it could find people who want shelter from current day. There have been times where you create a character who is very anti-current culture. And surprisingly enough, they become very, very popular even with younger people who might not even agree with them. But oftentimes those characters are outspoken and they're honest about what they think. And you think of a character like Archie Bunker, he comes to mind. There's been a few over the years that people suddenly kind of go, oh yeah, I like that character, even though he's kind of a jerk. And I'm not saying that Rockford was a jerk, but Rockford was an old school guy. And there was at least one episode where he kind of lays into this girl who's sort of a fake hippie, kind of a moon unit. And he's like, you gotta straighten up, man. Like he just goes, I think something like that could be very popular. A guy who's very grounded, very masculine in this very effeminate world we're kind of struggling through at the moment, way out of balance, but not the good effeminacy, but the sort of toxic effeminacy, right? I think you could do something with that. But if you do anything current day or modern audience with this thing, it'll be dead on arrival. It will be dead on arrival. So I don't know, man. I'm tempted to see if they can pull it off. When they did like the Magnum PI remake, that was a zero no instantly. I looked at the guy and I'm like, no, it's not. But I think they at least tried to get the casting as good as they could. I think they at least made an attempt, but it'll be interesting. It's such a great show. And, at a minimum, hopefully, it'll direct a lot of attention, younger people's attention, to actual Rockford Files. They might watch a few episodes and be like, holy shit. Especially younger guys, I think, could really do with watching the Rockford Files. It's a great character, and basically Maverick in modern day at the time. And Garner was just fantastic in it. So we'll see. But they are actually moving ahead with it. And I mentioned this on an earlier stream. Garner's daughter was involved a little bit with this. And I know she wants to protect her dad's legacy. So hopefully this thing will work out and actually be something good in the world. I don't know how much good in the world a Rockford Files remake could do, but if it's not doing bad in the world at this point, that would be a nice touch. The other thing that's coming out, they say, is, and I saw this at Dread Central, Nightfall, in which the Dark Knight detective gets a major boo-boo from Bane, is going to be animated. Warner Brothers Animation and DC Studios announced Batman Nightfall Part 1. So they want to do, it's Nightfall Part 1. Nightfall. I don't know. You might have wanted to do something a little different there. But so it's going to be multi-part. And it was a pretty long, series initially. So that might not be a bad thing. I think breaking The Hobbit into a 40-part miniseries was maybe a mistake. But maybe you could do this with this one. So we'll see. They got a lot of James Gunny crap, that Bruce Timm thing, abomination he did with Batman, like Golden Age Batman. They got those coming as well. But this is one that might actually be good for comic fans. We'll see. I've read a little bit of Nightfall, a couple issues here and there. And I remember I wasn't into comics when it came out. And it was Batman's, this happened to him. He's not going to be Batman anymore. This kind of stuff is like, oh God, is this more of this Death of Superman crap? Oh, Captain America's dead now. I hate that crap. But I have to say, going back and reading a couple things, I think a good job was done on it. It was a good storyline. Again, maybe a little bit on the unrealistic side of his recovery, but I think they did something pretty good with it. So we'll see. We will see what they manage to do. Let's look at a few, maybe not a couple, but a few pickups I got from the comic book shop. Although first thing is actually what I ordered from mycomicshop.com. I've been grabbing the Spirit of the Shadows books on a whim. I tried it out and I kind of dug it. I like the art style. It's a little fun, a little Kirby-esque. Kind of an interesting story. It's a 5-parter, and I had 1 and 2. And I kept going into the shop and each week and waiting to see number 3 pop up, and number 3 didn't pop up. So I went and looked on mycomicshop.com, and well, there's number 3. I'm like, okay, so it's out, but it wasn't there. So I gave it another week, went back and looked. No, okay, so let me go back onto mycomicshop.com, and then I find number 4 has come out as well. So grab both of those, and I grabbed actually a couple things from my wife, one of which she already had, but another series that I guess they just stopped ordering there. So I guess the sales weren't good enough. Manowar says, after Gotham by Gaslight, have zero trust in DC animation. Yeah, I know, and that's always the problem, right? Well, I mean, you see, oh, Bruce Timm's going to do like thing with Golden Age kind of Batman. Oh, that could be really cool, you know? And then you realize that, well, it was Bruce Timm's art, but it wasn't necessarily Bruce Timm's story that made the animated series. And we get this bizarre female penguin, and no thank you. Not good stuff at all. So I get where you're coming from. It's one of those things where it's like the potential's there. This could be good. And so often it isn't. It isn't. And I think we need to start dealing with the fact that it is a major talent crisis in American entertainment, a major crisis of talent that is not going to be easily remedied. Even if you change your attitude, doesn't mean you're going to be good at what you're doing. And we're getting a lot of stuff that looks like straight to video or TV movie dressed up in, $250 million budgets right now. It is pretty sad. Another new one that I got, that I tried out almost to spite myself, but I have to admit it's pretty good, is Tigress Island. Number 3 came out. This is the story of these women, and believe me, finding an image within that won't get me in trouble on YouTube. Not that it's not, it's racy. I'll put it that way, but it's not like something that would get you arrested, or that would, have been behind the counter at well, maybe it would have. It's kind of like heavy metal, actually. Probably should have been behind the counter at 7-Eleven, but it's about these women who are essentially kind of kidnapped to this island by some billionaire to be part of his harem with dozens, maybe hundreds of women that are there. Feels very much like a 70s exploitation flick. And these particular women, who all have some history, some pasts, not with each other, but things that they're running away from, they got to figure out how to get off the island. And so it's kind of an escape story. And it's actually pretty decent. The art's a little odd. Again, it really reminds me of something I would have seen in a heavy metal magazine back in the 80s. Where you're getting the European comics and different art styles, sometimes almost a cartoony look to them. And usually a little bit, more adult, more mature. But I went ahead and got the first issue, and it was pretty darn good. So I'm stuck with it. I'm not sure. I'm assuming it's probably kind of a limited series, but not exactly sure how limited it's going to be. I did pick up the new Shudder with, again, just like that Vampiris Carmilla, another Don Mates cover. And what they like to do in Shudder is, and usually Don Glut writes these adaptations. Let's see. Is it? I don't know if it says. Let's see. Well, Don Glut. Well, he's the associate editor anyways. Yeah, he's one of the writers listed first. So they usually do an adaptation of the cover art for these things. So take that character and make a story about him. And so they're often fun. But some of the art was pretty decent looking in this one. There's the one image that I kind of dug. Yeah, I'm not sure who. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Art by Benito Gallego, story by Nicola Cuti. But I thought, I like that. That's pretty good. Pretty good stuff. So I grabbed Shudder. Also, one of the guys I pal around with on Twitter and sometimes manages to jump into the chat, Finn the Spook, was saying, I want people to discuss these with me, all these magazines. Anybody out there reading these? I want to talk about them. And I hadn't read them for a little bit. So I had gotten Vampiris Carmilla. We've been chatting about that a little. But I saw Shudder. I'm like, all right, let me get that so I can hang out and chat with Finns. New facsimile Justice League of America. This is what kind of brought the Black Canary back from her Golden Age world into the Justice League on Earth 1. So couldn't resist that. Great cover too. Really, that's a great cover. Man, that just works. Again, notice the coloration. They did a great job with that stuff back then. And then I got a bunch of back issues. I mean, they're $2 a pop, and I couldn't help myself. Let's see. I'll just bring them up one at a time. So a bunch of Defenders, including a few that are fairly early on in the run. This is a book that I've dug since I was first getting into comics way back when, and I've wanted more of them. And $2 a pop, I couldn't resist. So what do we got? Valkyrie, Hulk, Doctor Strange, Nighthawk. Great stuff, man. So I grabbed a bunch of those. Loved when they got the Hulk in there. Here's what do they call these dudes? Was it the Head Crew? Oh, the Headmen, yeah. Havoc of the Headmen. Such a weird group. I first encountered them, I think, in Sensational She-Hulk with Kirby art. The new Red Guardian. Based on the one I've seen in the MCU, we could certainly use a new Red Guardian there. Or maybe they could stop making MCU movies. Would be also good. We got Ms. Marvel in this one. Another one of my early favorites from back in the day. The Omega Saga. Defenders was a great book. I really, really enjoyed it. But I got to be honest, that final phase, the New Defenders, as much as I wanted to love it, it was just a little bit too down for me. Like, I didn't care for it much. I did not care for it much. I went and collected a whole bunch of them. I'm like, finally, I got a bunch of these. And I'm reading all of them, and I'm going, don't know that I'm enjoying these a whole lot, actually. Shit. But at any rate, and then, so I'm going through grabbing some Defenders, going, dude, just grab them. They're $2. Just grab them. Just grab them. What do I see popped into that? Ooh, some Captain Marvel. So we got a nice early one, number 7. And then we got some of the later ones too. Always a Captain Marvel fan once I discovered that character. Another one that they completely blew in the MCU because they had to skip. They had to skip ahead to the end of the story with a character that, frankly, wasn't very popular in the comic book. She was much more popular as Ms. Marvel, but either way, she needed to get the powers from him. They could have done some fun stuff with him. But the MCU, if nothing else, is good at blowing their opportunities. Found an old issue of Flash. There's just something pure about the Flash. Hey, Mr. Sushi Hut, how you doing, man? Glad you could make it. And then this one, they have some of the stuff in Mylar. I'll poke through. It's older Silver Age stuff. I'll poke through for stuff that's not too expensive. I found an issue, in fact, issue 2 of Harvey, which is another one of these sort of, Archie clones from back in the day, which I'm doing a video on. I'm putting some research into all the different clones of Archie. And Harvey's one of them. And I just also discovered that I now only am 5 issues away from getting the entire run of Harvey, if I want to go pursue that. But I thought, since I'm doing a lot of research on that, and I'm just getting into the point where I'm reading a few of them, I thought, I'll just buy that one. It wasn't that bad. So those are my big pickups from the comic book shop this week. Let's slide into the coming attractions. This one I'm excited for, from David Hartman, part of his, what are they calling it? Monster Drive-In, I think, series that he's doing. The Hunchback of Naughty Dames, going live tomorrow on Kickstarter, which, with some of Kickstarter's new rules, I hope that does not become an issue. But it is a 100-page horror noir story he likes to get a little bit naughty. Kind of similar to Brian Baugh, if you've ever read his stuff. There's a similar vein, similar thread between them. In fact, I think when I first discovered both those artists on DeviantArt way back when, I would at times get them confused for one another. There was enough similarity that eventually I kind of worked them out in my brain. I'm like, oh, no, those are different people. So he's done a couple things. I've backed. One thing's already been released. The next one's being released very soon, I think being mailed out pretty soon. So this is the new Kickstarter, The Hunchback of Naughty Dames, which, I mean, frankly, I would back that just for the title alone. That's just fun. Super 7 is continuing their Micronauts line. Now, this is a little bit of a retread, not exactly a repaint, but a little bit of a repaint. But I'm enjoying the line, so I went ahead and got them anyways. It's a good title. We'll see. Hopefully, it'll be a great story too. So we got the translucent orange time traveler. You could probably figure out which one he is just looking at it. And we got Phobos. You can snag them still, pre-order at Big Bad Toy Store, maybe elsewhere as well. $25 a pop. Like, again, I'm not in love with that price for the size of these things, but I've really enjoyed their little Micronauts line so far. Again, I believe that was my favorite figure from last year. Very simple, but damn, I just love the aesthetic on that. And so I've stuck with it. So I just said, what the hell? I'll grab them too. So anyways, those are scheduled to arrive in June. You can pre-order them now if you have a burning need to do so. Fantagraphics' latest Lost Marvels book, the fourth in that series, is all about Gil Kane. One of my favorites. This is volume 1 of a series they're doing on his stuff. This one is going to feature Jungle Book, Khazar, Gulliver of Mars, which if you've never read, preceded John Carter, very similar concept. And they sort of made their version, Marvel's version of Gulliver, a little more like John Carter than it was in the actual book. If you've ever read the book, it's not quite as fun as the John Carter stories, really. They made it a little more John Carter-y, but great art from Kane. This is coming out August 25th. I think you can already pre-order it on their site. Phobos was Biotron's trailer park cousin, repainting that swap. Yeah, he is. He is basically, and I'm still buying them. Trailer park, robots need love too. That's all I'm trying. If this channel is about anything, it's about love for knockoff toys. And in a weird way, he's a knockoff toy, even though he's not technically a knockoff toy. Hey, Ramey Butler, what's up, man? So coming out August 25th, $40 hardcover, 240 pages. So that's not too bad, actually. And if you love Kane's art, you probably want to check this dude out. It is packed, and it is volume 1. So there's more to come. Obviously, assuming it sells well. I think it probably will. I saw this. It's at Big Bad Toy Store. It is a Takara Transformers Missing Link. Now, I think these are smaller figures from what I could figure. But this is Ironhide, one of my favorite characters from the old cartoon. Up for pre-order. Now, here's the thing, and this is why I will not be owning this. It's $125. So it's well out of my price range on things like this. But I thought I'd pop it out there for people who might want to see it. It is, so if you've ever seen the old Ironhide toy, the original, and also, is it Ratchet? Is that the ambulance? They don't look anything like they look in the cartoons. It's not even close. Changed it drastically for the cartoons. Now, other companies have put out cartoon-accurate Transformers that do actually transform into the vehicles, so it looks accurate in both forms. This one looks to me like it's kind of a combo of the two. It doesn't look exactly cartoon accurate, but it's way more cartoony, kind of that look, the head on the body than the original toy was. It's sort of in between the two of them. So I thought I'd throw it out there. Ooh, I just saw Raimi had to stay home, hurt back. Dude, I am sorry to hear that, man. Okay, 164 scale, but they transform. Yeah. I screw my back up every so often. Usually doing something that shouldn't screw up my back. Like I'll go outside and I'll lift a giant branch and carry it around to the backyard and I'm fine. And then I walk inside and I see a little piece of paper on the floor and I'll bend down and pick it up and then my back goes out. Come on. At least let my back go out because I'm doing something rugged. So I have a story to tell people when I'm hobbling around work. Anyhow, but I hope you get better, man. Real soon. I don't know, maybe some heat might be the way to go. Definitely you should watch, something fun on TV. Which I don't know if this counts. I might make your back worse. So anyhow, if that is not expensive enough for you, though, Lego has announced their Minas Tirith set, comprising 8,278 bricks. It is huge. Apparently, it's just a little smaller in terms of brick count than their Death Star set. It will be up for pre-order on June 1st for Lego Insiders, June 4th for everyone else. $650. Holy crap. You just need to be a Lego fanatic or a Lord of the Rings fanatic, I think, for this one. It's huge. I don't even know where you put the damn thing once you built it. When I was a kid, I had trouble just finding space on the floor to play with Legos without getting yelled at, by mom and dad. Like, will you get out of the middle of the floor? We're trying to walk. So what I would do with this, I have no idea. Raimi says, I destroyed 5 discs. Oh, I gotcha. And it flares up. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's kind of the problem I have too. Not that bad. Not that serious, but every once in a while, it's a muscle will clench and it's like, oh, and I can't walk normal. I walk like Fred Sanford for like a week. Manowar says, ever since I ruptured my lower bicep tendon a few years back, yeah, look at rather than lift heavy objects. Life hack, if it's falling over, let it. Yeah, I know. I'm still okay for lifting the heavy stuff. I just got to stop lifting light things. Or sometimes I'll just wake up, so I do something in my sleep. I have no idea. It's all part of the fun of getting older, guys. It's all part of the fun. Just, I don't know how that counts as fun, but just it's part of the fun. There is a new collection of old comic strips. This is one I had never heard of before, called Flying Jenny. 1941-42 dailies. You can pick this up at lulu.com, which is kind of print on demand. That's where a bunch of my old role-playing game stuff is still at. But it looks kind of like a cool strip. I might check it out. I've been delving more lately into Golden Age female superheroes and adventurers, because I'm probably going to record later today, like a year one on the 1940s Black Cat character. And doing that led me to look at some other stuff. And I'm like, it's actually a lot of cool characters and they're not maybe what you would expect. So I might check this one out. I want to say $25 paperback, 240 pages, of comic strips. So that's not too bad. So I might grab that one on Lulu. I'm thinking about it, but you might want to check it out. And I really do also just love, you were picking up a bag of chips. There you go. Just like me. I really love though, finding all these things that I just didn't know existed. That's just what's amazing to me is the volume of pop culture that's been produced, and so little of it really gets noticed at this point. So if, you're kind of tired of current day and you've read a lot of the old stuff, just be aware. There's a lot of old stuff you have not read. There's a lot of new things to discover and explore out there, and go for it. It's fun. McFarlane has a few Batman out there right now. They went up for pre-order this week, and some of them are going to be in Target and Walmart, I think, in June. So we got like the As-Bat, we got the, Dark Knight Returns, we got a combo of Batman and Deadman, and then we got the Golden Age Batman. And that's the one I think for certain is going to end up in Targets and Walmarts. I just recently got, I showed this off last time around, but I finally got him out of the package. I got a Golden Age Batman, frankly, that looks a lot more like Golden Age Batman than that one does. So I'll probably stick with this guy. And the best thing is that he came with Ace the Bat Hound, which is, doesn't move, but it's still Ace the Bat Hound, which I dig. So there you go. There's the Golden Age one I got. I just grabbed it off of Amazon. And I think it's pretty damn cool. It came out pretty nice. So, but if you want the one with, I don't know, more attitude. Well, actually, yeah, that must be a retread too from because he doesn't have the trunks. So that's not really a Golden Age Batman. That's some of the later crap. All right, screw that stuff. I'm getting it off my screen. I'm a trunks man. I don't like characters like that without the trunks. If they've never had the trunks, that's fine. But if they've had the trunks, you take the trunks off, same color as the bodysuit. Now it just kind of looks like a naked guy running around in boots. And I just don't need that in my life. That's not what I'm going for. McFarlane also has a new wave of Super Friends figures announced. There's a couple in there that I'm interested in. Primarily Wonder Woman. They finally got that figure out. But I think it's one of those red platinum things, which means I probably don't have a snowball's chance in hell of actually getting it. And the Black Vulcan looks pretty cool. There's also Evil Wonder Woman, Farmer Superman, which comes with Mr. Mixes Pitlick, and these kind of translucent versions of Superman and Batman. So a lot of retread crap. But Wonder Woman, cool if I can manage to get that. It's actually one of my favorite representations of the character. Designed by Alex Toth, of course. And I don't know, so I just always liked that look of her. Kind of that little hair flip going. Something about it works for me. So I'll try to get that one. But Black Vulcan is cool as well. And very different, though, than it's designed. I talked about this in something. Yeah, the Frank Miller Batman, Raimi. Yeah, Dark Knight Returns. Or is that another Frank Miller thing that they did? The other one. Anyways. Dude, I just lost where. Oh, Black Vulcan. Yeah, I found this early model sheet. Different coloration, slightly different costume for the character. And I think would have looked a little bit cooler. And the earlier model sheets, like on him and Apache Chief that I've seen, definitely more bulked out, They were bigger dudes than they end up looking in the actual show. The translation from Alex Toth model sheet to Super Friends cartoon was not always excellent. If you can track down a lot of those model sheets he did, though, they'll just blow your mind. What he could do with just simple lines, really no shadow, just simple lines for these characters is fantastic. He was a very great artist. I did that one thing looking at his Black Canary story that he did, and it was just amazing stuff that he could do. Oh, that's back to that other one. Yeah, that was the last thing I had. Okay, so let's take a look at a couple quick reviews for things that showed up that I had a chance to read. The first one from Dr. Masque, who you could follow on X, Twitter. And I'll open this up because there's a couple little extra doodads in there. With some special thanks from people, too. So we get, you do get a sticker with this comic book, if you backed it. I don't know about otherwise. Oh, okay, digital. You can get a free digital version. I'm not going to show that code thing, but you do get a little trading card with it as well. And what he basically did, he's produced Besprinkled with Scarlet, which takes some Edgar Allan Poe works, sometimes poetry, sometimes bits from stories, and pairs them with different artists out there. There's the page. And so, for example, A Descent into Maelstrom. And we get that art that goes with it from Rob Geronimo, I believe. Let's see. I got that right? Yeah, Robert Geronimo. Okay. So Alexi Gorboot has one in here. Jim Whiting or Whitting. Preston Acevedo, Peter Gilmore, Anthony Pugh, Ricardo Jaime, Kevin Conrad, Brian Baugh, some dude called Fabrizio Aiello, and Richie Acosta, and Hjalmar Pretorius. That's a name with which to conjure. Let's see. Let's look at Fabrizio's. Oh, there we go. Okay, I'll go right up to it. So it's a cool little concept. Just checking out some cool art from different artists with some great, Edgar Allan Poe. Probably would be a great way to introduce Poe to people who had never read it, just to get a taste of what he was doing and how he wrote and what it looked like. But it is very cool. It is very cool. I'm glad I backed it. I like supporting that kind of stuff, the indie side of things. And again, Dr. Masque, fun to follow on Twitter, fun to follow on X. He does some very cool stuff. Good posts. He's been posting, good Golden Age stuff. He's been posting some fun old romance comic panels, things like that lately. So big fan. So you might want to check that out. I believe it is still stuff that you can get. I think you could still order. Go check him out on X though, and you can go from there if you didn't get a chance for that one. I'm missing some chat stuff. Let's take a look. There we go. Man of War, those Danes are definitely smoking something at those prices. Oh, yeah. I like the Dead Bat. Okay, Ramey likes and that's Frank Miller. I did see that. Great Alex Toth. Okay. Alan Parsons' project, Tales of Imaginarium, is my favorite album. It's based on Poe. Didn't know that. I have to check that out. That'd be good. I've been lately at work. There's times at work where I do like a lot of data entry type stuff. So it's good to have something in the background. A lot of times I'll put old movies on, like on YouTube or something, and just kind of listen to them more than watch them. But lately I've been more into music, no words, a little easier to concentrate. Of course that'll have words in it, but I might throw that on. Alphacore, number 2, just got delivered Friday, I think it was. So this is the superhero team in the Rippaverse: Brian Solari, Braxwell, and Ingrid. Is it Valdez? Her last name just escaped me. Brian Solari has a definite Superman vibe to him. He is a ex-military guy now working for the police. And the story kind of hits into, follows up the first issue where Alphacore had a sort of this flying, levitating headquarters over the city that they could respond to threats from. And the bad guys figure out a way to take it down. And Solari actually helps that along because he gets impatient, puts a thumb drive into a computer that he shouldn't have, and that screws up the whole computer network, and the thing goes down and causes a lot of property destruction. And as a result, people are pretty angry about Alphacore, and there is a politician, a city councilman, who is trying to get Alphacore defunded. Now, no word on whether that guy has any sinister, plans other than thinking it's the right thing to do. But because the cleanup is very expensive, and the council's looking for ways to cut, the mayor's in a bad position. She supports Alphacore, but she's got to figure out, what she's going to do. They end up putting Solari and Braxwell, they can fly, they have super strength, putting them to work on some of the cleanup and helping the construction crews, better PR. And part of this is they're trying to rebuild that headquarters thing, which is expensive, obviously. So she puts them on that, but also invites in this guy, who is like a billionaire who's going to help out. And we've seen this character in The Horseman, and those of us who have seen him there, and you could also pick it up pretty quickly, he's not exactly a good guy. So he obviously has some ulterior motives about what he wants to do. So this one is sort of more of a bridge kind of issue. It's setting up issue number 3. So it's, it's not like a self-contained issue. There's a little bit of, fighting and stuff like that. It's a little talkier, but, you got to have those to set up what you're doing at times. So, it's like if it's not the first issue of this, I would recommend to people. Obviously, I'd say go get issue number 1. I mean, there's only 2 at this point, so not a lot of options, but, I'd say go get issue number 1, but issue 2 is gonna, it's gonna lead to other things. And, nice art. Nice art. I'm not in love with the colors, but that's just me, that's just me with modern comics. I don't like the way they're colored. I really do like flat colors better in comic books. I think that the more complex colors, I think they detract from the artwork. A lot of the ink work, a lot of the line work, especially a lot of the cross hatching, I think sort of gets obscured by that kind of color. I'd love to see these. I'd love to see these on regular comic book paper with flat colors. I just would. And I'm probably one of the very few who feels that way, but happy with it. I'm sticking with Alphacore right now at this point. Sticking with Alphacore. I'm trying to think. Horseman, sticking with Horseman at this point. Also Dixon and Bennett. There's the Mike Barron Western that I just saw. I don't think it's up yet. But I'm going to check that one out. I'm still enjoying Yaira, and they got a new series with a different writer. And I think a different artist. And I think I've ordered one of those. I just realized a couple days ago, I'm like, I need to go through some of these sites and I need to actually write down things that I've backed. Not a matter of like, I'm worried that I'm not getting sent things, but these campaigns go a long time. And somebody will say, hey, back this. And I'm like going, I think I already did. Did I already do that? And I have to keep checking. I'm like, I got to write this down. But so there's a new Yaira thing that I'm going to back. It look, I like the description of it. And that's the main stuff I'm sticking with at this point. If more Isom, they're doing a crossover thing that I'm not that interested in at the moment, that I probably won't get, but they're releasing a lot of stuff. Rami had asked if it was, if it's worth it. Well, I mean, I've enjoyed it. I enjoyed Isom. I enjoyed Yaira a little less than Isom. The Zaylan book I liked. I liked the Alphacore book. I've enjoyed Horseman. So the stuff I've read, I've enjoyed, generally speaking. It's not like the old days where you're going out and buying a floppy for $1 and it's easy to dip your toes. These are longer books and they're more expensive as a result. So it's a little more of a commitment to jump into it. But I've liked what I've read so far. They're expanding. There's a lot of stuff I haven't read. A lot of characters at this point that I haven't read, which I'm okay with. I mean, there were lots of books in DC and Marvel I didn't read back in the day. And it's designed that way. The idea is you don't have to buy every single book we're doing. We're putting out a variety of stuff. Try things out, see what you like. You could stick with that series and you can ignore most of the rest. And if there's info you need to know, we'll let you know about it. Don't worry. We're not going to, just like old Marvel and DC. If you're reading Captain America and something important is going on in the Avengers, they'll reference it in Captain America. They'll tell you what issue it's from if you want to go check it out. But you were rarely in a position in the old days of like, oh, now I have to start buying this book that I don't really want, so I understand the storyline. It was more episodic, and Rippaverse is a little bit more, I think, in that vein. It's not like you've got to buy it all, but it's interesting to watch them go, and I have enjoyed what they've done so far. Final little review is Vampirus Carmilla, which has a little bit of a vampire feel to it, you know, but it's not like a vampire story, but just in terms of her design, the sexy vampire kind of design. It is an anthology like Shudder. Different stories, different artists working in it. I will point out that Nick Paluco, I'm assuming is how you pronounce the name, and I could be getting it wrong. Probably my favorite artist who shows up in these, and unfortunately, usually shorter, like one-page things, at least in this one. Really, really enjoy what he does. He does have a longer one, The Stalker. Yeah, The Stalker. Well, that was a good story, too. That was a good story. I think he's my favorite stuff in it. But this is, old Warren style stuff. It gets a little bit racy. It doesn't go too far. Oh, that was another one. Who was doing the art on this one? Tom Grindberg. Yeah, that was the other story I really enjoyed because the art I thought was just really nice. Dude, there's a few black and white mags right now that are looking pretty good. I think Shudder, I think Vampires Carmilla are getting better as they go. And they got quite a few. I mean, this is issue 31. And I can remember, I think when they launched it. I can remember when they launched it. But it's good stuff. And you got the Atlantean, which is basically Cole stories, but they can't put Cole's name on the cover. But it's black and white, very much the feel of like, Buscema's Conan. You got the Savage Sword of Conan. I just got my first issue of that. And again, the art was just like, oh, that black and white art, man, that just blows me away. Even back in the day when I was collecting, and I got out of collecting the floppy type stuff for a few reasons, I was still grabbing, Savage Sword and Conan Saga, like at the 7-Eleven and stuff, if I saw it in there, because that stuff was still just friggin' great. So yeah, it's kind of cool. Yeah, the Titan Savage Sword, man, we're talking about. Yeah, I'd resisted because I'm like, oh, that's another thing. And it was there at the local comic shop. And I'm like, let me pick one up. And I'm looking at the art going, oh my God, this is really nice. Okay. I'll at least get one so I could read it and check it out. But there's some really fantastic old school black and white magazine stuff out there right now. If you're into that, there's some legit stuff you can check out. It's good. And it's good to see that art in that way. I remember when there was a lot of the indie books in the 80s that were black and white. Which you don't really get now, but you really get the line work. You really get the ink work in those. I think they're great. And I'm glad to see more of them out there. So there we go. A few little reviews today. Nothing real serious. What do we got coming up this week? Well, Monday, Thor, number 355 in my Mighty Thor Monday series, going through Walt Simonson's legendary run on the character in the 80s. Asgard has been saved from Surtur. At this point, we're dealing with the aftermath of Odin disappearing. And there's so much more good stuff to come. So if you love that stuff and you just want to, revisit it this way, you might want to check the videos out. If you've never read this stuff, you might want to check it out and might find yourself going out there and buying some trade paperbacks, because Simonson did some epic, fun, mythological superhero stuff in that series, and introduced some new characters and really did some important good work on it. Manowar says Savage Sword Reforged is a higher price point due to color printing. Yeah, but the reprinted stories are pre my collection. Yeah, and that's what I was getting those for the same reason. And I'm going, I don't know if I'm going to continue, but it's because it's like they're reprinting it from the beginning, and it's color, which I don't care about, but really good though. Yeah. Have you done the Death of the Execute? No, it's coming. It's coming. Spoiler alert. Yeah. Well, like I say, another one of those things that to me could have been so much more important in the movies if they'd done it right than what they did. But they did at least reference it, and it was an interesting. Yeah, they took their time with the character and really. I mean, the execution had been around since the '60s, so people knew that character, and watching what he went through and why he went through it and how it changed him was great stuff. And you can't do that if you just sort of pop the character out of nowhere. At any rate, on Wednesday, got a review up of Men into Space, TV series from 1959 that was charting what America's space program was going to look like in the years ahead. The series is like set in the 70s and 80s. They never quite come out and say that. And it certainly doesn't look like the 70s and 80s. It just looks like 59. But they were trying to take what they knew about the space program and what was in the works and show what it was going to be like. It's a very cool series. I really enjoy it. So I'm going to do a review on that one. And on Friday, maybe, I say this again, maybe, because I got to get some stuff done today and I don't know how much time I'm going to have. Maybe I'll record it midweek. I don't know if I'll find time then either. I want to do a flip through of the Dungeon Master's Guide, the classic. And but it's a big book, and I need to really go through, reread some stuff. Which sections do I want to focus in on? That kind of thing. So if I find time today, but I got to do a Thor video today. If I can find time for DM's Guide, I will do DM's Guide. I really want to do DM's Guide, and I need to also get that Black Cat video made. If anybody wants to go ahead and sponsor me so I can quit my job and just do this ridiculous nonsense, let me know. Anyways, no, I'm having fun and it's all good. I will find the time ultimately. So that, I think, will do it for Dad's Den live today. Thank you, everybody, for popping into the chat. Raimi and Man of War and Mr. Sushi Hut was in there. And I saw Fabrizio Aiello, one of the greats, Horace H. Hoover, an awesome comic book. And dude, the new one he's teasing looks freaking awesome too. Very talented guy. You might want to go check his stuff out. And of course, Lady Wendelin in there, keeping everybody on the up and up. Usually also at having to approve seemingly innocent comments from Man of War, but somehow they're spicy enough that YouTube worries about them. Some of my favorite stories after the stream are her telling me stuff I had to approve because it's always wild. But at any rate, thanks everybody for dropping by. Hope you enjoyed this little romp through geekiness. I will end, as I always do, with God bless everybody. Please be kind to one another. Have a little bit of fun out there, and I will see you hopefully again soon in Dad's Den of Pop Culture. Bye-bye.